My father brought his fist down on the polished Easter dining table so hard that the crystal wine glasses jumped and the silverware rattled against the porcelain plates. "Turn that screen off right now, Elena," he ordered, his face turning a dark, uneven red. But the damage had already been done. Across the room, Uncle Raymond leaned forward in his chair, slowly putting on his reading glasses as row 39 of my spreadsheet glowed across the 8.2-inch television mounted above the fireplace. I did not reach for my laptop. I did not apologize. I simply picked up the glass of ice water beside me and took one slow, deliberate sip. It had taken exactly 88 days of silence to get me to this table, and I was not leaving until every number had been read out loud. My name is Elena Voss. I am 35 years old, and for 12 years my family treated me like a human emergency fund. They thought my job as a financial risk analyst meant I just sat in meetings and looked at charts. They never bothered to understand that I investigated hidden losses, traced fraudulent payments, and found missing money for a living. I followed patterns. I exposed lies. I built timelines from scraps of data, and on that Easter Sunday, I used every skill I had ever learned to reveal how my parents, my brother, and my sister had drained $421,300 from my life while smiling at me across holiday tables. Before I tell you how one $1.25 box of crackers destroyed the perfect Voss family image in front of 21 relatives, take a moment to subscribe. And tell me in the comments if you have ever been the responsible one, the one everyone calls only when something needs to be paid, fixed, rescued, or forgiven. Because if you have, you already know that being useful can feel a lot like being loved, until the day you stop paying and the silence tells you the truth. The countdown to that Easter dinner began on a freezing Monday morning in early February. Madison, Wisconsin was covered in gray slush, the kind that soaked through your shoes before 9 in the morning and made the whole city feel tired. I was sitting in a glass-walled conference room at the investment firm where I had worked for nearly a decade. The HR director sat across from me with a folder on the table and a practiced expression on her face. She used phrases
Hello,
like
it's another break
restructuring,
time.
market pressure,
Yes,
department
we have
consolidation.
done a lot of things
I heard the
today.
words, but they arrived as if from
Whew,
underwater. 15
how
minutes
is
later, my
everybody?
company badge no
We're
longer opened the
halfway through.
elevator doors. I walked out to the parking lot carrying a cardboard box with 2 desk plants, a cracked mug, and a framed photo I no longer wanted to look at. I sat in my old Toyota Corolla, staring at the snow gathering on the windshield, trying to breathe. My severance package would keep me alive for a few months if I cut everything down to the bone. I did not need money from my mother. I did not even need a solution. I only needed one sentence. Just one. "Are you okay?" So I called her. Marianne Voss answered on the third ring, distracted and cheerful, telling someone in the background that the florist had delivered the wrong tulips again. "Mom," I said, and my voice cracked before I could stop it. "I lost my job. They eliminated my department." The line went quiet. I closed my eyes and waited for comfort. I waited for her to ask if I had eaten, if I needed to come over, if I was scared. Instead, I heard a sharp breath. "Oh, Elena," she said, and there was no softness in it, only panic. "But what about the property tax payment and the roof debt this month?" I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. "Mom, I just told you I have no income." Her tone hardened instantly. "Well, you need to figure it out. Your father cannot handle this stress right now. We cannot have another late payment because of your career problem." Then the call ended. Not slowly, not gently, a clean, final click. My mother hung up on me because I had stopped being useful. I sat in that parking lot with the heater blowing cold air at my feet, staring at my dark phone screen, and something inside me shifted. Not all at once, not dramatically, just enough for a crack to form. Because for
Whew,
the first
it's
time in my
break time,
life, I heard the
and we're
relationship
halfway
exactly as it
through.
was. I was not Elena, her
And
daughter. I was
actually,
Elena, the
in terms
payment
of work,
system. And the
I
payment
only
system
have
had
2 more
just failed.
hours that I need to
To
clock in.
understand why
So
that phone call
yay! And
shattered
then the
me,
rest,
you
I'm
have
just
to
gonna
understand how
journal.
the Voss family worked.
Oh, I'm
We were
also
not
very
raised as
hungry
children.
and
We
very
were
sweaty.
assigned roles. My
Send
older
help.
brother, Caleb, was the visionary. That was what
Send
my
help.
parents called him, even though every vision he had required
Hi,
someone else's money.
Gianna.
He
Welcome
called
in. Enjoy
himself
your
a real
Biko for
estate
today.
investor, but most of
So,
his investments
oh
existed
gosh,
only in
wait. I
pitch
wanna show
decks,
you. I wanna show you
expensive lunches,
something.
and dramatic phone calls about
So
opportunities that could not wait
Rusty,
until tomorrow. My younger sister
he,
Tessa was the creative one,
what do you call
the
this?
delicate one, the girl building a lifestyle brand. She needed professional
He
photos, editing software,
gave the
salon
dogs a
appointments,
bath.
wardrobe pieces, and
It's so
constant
cute. I want to show it
encouragement
to you.
because, according
Hold
to my
on.
mother,
So
Tessa's
this
image is
is
her business.
one of my brother's
And then there
doggo.
was me.
Her name is
I was the
Meredith,
stable
and yes,
one,
she is a
the
she.
practical one, the one who understood responsibility,
And
the one who did not need help
she
because
had
I
to be
always
put
found a
inside
way.
the crate while
My
taking a
father,
bath
Victor,
because
discovered that
she
role when I was
was running
24.
around a little too
I had
much.
just received my first
So
serious
she needs to be
promotion,
in the crate
and for the first
while
time in my
taking a
adult
bath,
life,
and then
I felt
she
like I
gets let
might
off.
be able to breathe financially.
Next
I
one
remember walking
is,
past a
that's
shop window
Carrie. That's
downtown and
another
seeing a
one of my
dark
brother's
wool winter coat on
doggos.
display.
Carrie
It was
baby, look
beautiful,
at them.
simple, warm, and far
They're
too
pigs.
expensive for the version of me who had spent
They're
years
so
layering cheap
cute.
sweaters under
Yeah,
a
so
thin
Carrie
jacket.
like showers a
I
little bit
promised
more,
myself I would buy
so
it with my next
she doesn't
paycheck.
need to be in the
That
crate for
same
the
week, my
shower.
father asked me to come by the house. When I
As my
arrived,
big
he was
boy
sitting at the kitchen
savior.
table with papers spread in front of
This is
him.
my big
His
boy
shoulders were
savior.
slumped. His face looked
My
tired
only
in a
guide
way that
dog.
seemed almost staged,
And he
though
is
I did
very
not know
big. He
that then.
did become a
He
little
told
bit
me the roof
thin
had failed
because
after
he
a
wasn't
storm.
eating
The insurance
when,
company was
the
delaying
female dogs
payment.
had their
The property
periods.
taxes were
And
behind.
yes, if you
And if
have
the family
male
did not
dogs,
begin
that
making
does
steady payments,
happen.
the
So
house could be at
just a
risk.
warning. But he's eating
Elena,
well
he
now.
said,
And
rubbing
I
his
think
forehead,
he
you are the only one
especially
mature enough to
loves
understand this.
baths.
Caleb is
That's his
still trying
thing.
to
He
get his
likes to
business
take a
off the
bath. He
ground.
likes water.
Tessa is too young and too sensitive.
Yeah.
But you
And
are
look at my
responsible. We
brother's.
need you.
Look at
That
Mare.
sentence worked like a key in a lock.
Wants
We
to play
need
with
you.
Xavier
I
so
was
bad,
24,
but Xavier is
desperate
so
to be
big.
seen, desperate to
And
matter.
then we
I
have
transferred the money
Sky.
that night. I did
This
not
is
buy
one
the
of
coat.
our doggos.
I wore my
Sky
old
is
one through 2
my
more Wisconsin winters, pulling the sleeves over my
disability
fingers while I waited for buses
doggo
in the
with
snow.
disability.
I
So
told
she can't
myself it was
walk anymore, so
temporary.
she has to be prompted
Families
on a
helped each
chair. But
other.
she
1 hard month
loves
turned into
baths. This
3,
is Juana.
3 turned
She
into a
was the
year.
girl that I was talking
Then
to
the
you
year
about that
became a
got wet.
system. Every
So
month,
that's why they have an unscheduled bath today.
$1,700 left my
She got
account
wet
for what my
when
father
Rusty was
called
cleaning
property
because
taxes,
she
roof
ran
debt, and house
towards the
protection.
water.
Then Caleb started calling.
She
His
doesn't
SUV
really like
payment was
baths.
late. His
She
office
doesn't
rent was
like them,
due.
but
A closing opportunity needed bridge money.
she
That
doesn't
became
run as much as Mare
$850 a
does.
month. Then Tessa needed software,
So
insurance,
that's the
studio
doggos. They're
fees,
so
clothes for
cute.
content shoots.
And I'm sure they're
That
pretty
became
relieved because
$400 a month.
it's been a hot day,
Altogether,
and
$2,950
the
disappeared
past
from my
couple of
life
days
every
have been
month before
hot,
I
so
even
they
had a
don't
chance to live
complain too
it.
much about
I built my
taking
budget around their
baths.
needs. I rented a small apartment with weak heat and windows that whistled
Yeah,
when the
look at
wind came
her.
off the
She's so
lakes.
so
I drove
so
a
so
Toyota Corolla old
cute.
enough to make strange
Yeah.
noises at every stoplight.
Anyway,
I
those are
stretched
our
groceries until dinner became pasta
doggos.
with salt,
Charlotte
canned
is
soup, crackers, and whatever was marked
here
down at the store.
sleeping.
Every raise I earned vanished into the
And
Voss family
Rusty
machine.
took care of the
Every
doggos,
bonus I
so
received was
technically we
already
haven't
spoken for
really
before it
eaten
reached my
anything
account.
yet.
Meanwhile, my parents
But
hosted
it's okay.
garden
I think
parties.
he's prepping
My mother
our
wore designer
lunch
dresses and apologized for the flower arrangements not being imported. My
lunch
father poured
brunch right
expensive
now.
wine for neighbors and talked
Hi,
about
Ninja.
discipline, legacy,
Welcome
and
in.
financial wisdom.
How are you, lovely?
Caleb arrived in a new
Oh
SUV
my
and spoke
gosh.
loudly about investment properties he did not own. Tessa took photos of the table before anyone could eat because the lighting was perfect. I would stand in the corner wearing
So
shoes I had repaired myself,
I'm hungry
drinking tap
because I haven't
water,
eaten anything
telling
yet,
myself
but
that
I'm not
love
like
sometimes looked like sacrifice.
super
But love does
hungry to
not
the
leave one
point where
person starving so everyone else can look rich. I just did
it
not know
feels
that yet.
weird.
After I lost my job,
Um,
I waited for them to become my family again. I
so
waited for
that's
my mother
good.
to call
But I
back.
am
I
getting
waited
hungry
for my
because it's
father to
12
ask if
p.m.
I needed
already and I
help.
haven't eaten
I waited for Caleb
anything.
to
I'm
remember all the times I
contemplating
had
if
rescued
I'm
him.
gonna go
I
and
waited
make
for Tessa
myself
to
a cup
send
of
something
iced
kind,
matcha or iced
anything at all.
coffee
But the family
to
group chat went
compensate with the
dead.
hunger,
Before
but I
that
really
day,
can't
it had
because
never been
I
quiet.
can't spike
My
my
mother sent
sugar.
photos of flowers and table
So
settings.
yeah. So we
My
wait
father sent articles
patiently.
about the
Very, very
economy.
patiently.
Caleb sent
Oh,
voice notes about
I have to
deals that
do
would change
add
everything.
things to my
Tessa
to-do
sent
list.
selfies, links, and complaints
How
about
are you guys
algorithms.
though?
But after I
Hopefully
became
you guys are
unemployed,
well,
the chat stopped.
and hopefully
It
this
was
day has
not
been
peace.
treating you
It was
well.
punishment. I lived those first weeks like a woman doing math inside a burning house. I canceled subscriptions, lowered the thermostat, sold a few pieces of jewelry, and counted the number of meals I could make from eggs, crackers, rice, and cans of soup. I applied for jobs until my eyes burned. I checked my phone constantly. Nothing. Then, on day 19, Tessa texted me. My heart actually lifted when her name appeared. I thought maybe she had finally remembered I existed.
Goodness, the
Her
weather.
message said, "Did you cancel my
The
Canva
weather not
Pro?
so great.
I'm trying to finish a post." I stared at the screen,
Weather
waiting
is
for the
kind
next
of
bubble.
intense today.
Maybe she would add, "Also,
Whew.
how are you?" Maybe she would say, "Sorry, I know things are hard."
No, the AC is
Nothing
not
came.
turned on
I
yet.
wrote back,
Not
"I
at
lost my
the
job. I
moment.
had to cancel anything I can't afford." Her reply came almost instantly. "You should have warned me. I have a posting schedule." That was it. No concern. No apology.
Probably
No humanity. Just irritation that the free service
later
had been interrupted. It was such a
when
small thing
Rusty's
compared to
here
12 years
already.
of money, but sometimes the smallest cruelty is
Because
the
I'm
one that
sure
finally
he's
tells the
also
truth.
suffering in the heat.
I deleted her
Oh,
access
this
and did
weather
not
is
explain
kind of
myself.
insane.
On day
It
46,
really
Caleb
is.
called. He did not say hello. He did not ask how I was surviving. "My SUV payment bounced," he said. "I need $700 today." I told him I could not help. I told him I was living off severance and that I was cutting meals to keep rent covered. There was a pause, but not the kind that comes from empathy. It was the silence of a spoiled man processing the word no. Then he laughed bitterly. "Wow, Dad was right. You always had money hidden somewhere. You just like watching people struggle because now you're bitter about losing your little finance job." Something in my chest tightened, but my mind became very clear. I knew vehicle lenders. I knew payment cycles. I knew that one bounced payment did not create an immediate
Okay,
crisis.
let's
If
check
Caleb was
our
panicking, he had been
ink
behind for
check.
a while. And if he had been behind for a while, where had the money I sent him gone? I
Ooh,
asked
we're
him
almost done
exactly
with
that.
this one. This
He
is the
exploded. He
Tsudobami
called me
ink.
jealous, selfish,
Well,
unstable. Then he hung up.
actually, there's
I
a
stood
lot
in my
more.
kitchen,
This is
one
gonna
hand on the
go,
counter,
still gonna
surrounded
go a
by the
long
smell
way.
of cheap soup warming on the stove. And for the first time, I did not
And
cry.
our other
My professional
one,
instincts had woken up. When a number does
my
not make
diamine
sense,
ink.
you do not argue with it. You investigate it.
This
The next break came
is
on day 62. I logged into the family cloud
absolutely
account because,
non-existent,
of
but
course, I
the
was
pen's
still
still
paying for
right. So
storage. I
I'm
planned to cancel it before
thinking
the
there
annual
is
renewal
still
hit my
some ink
card.
left
The dashboard
here.
opened and a new
So we're gonna
folder was
finish that
syncing. The
because we're
title
not
was
about to waste
Veil
ink.
Spring Reset.
All right, I'm
I
gonna
clicked
go
before I
back
could
and
talk
jump
myself
into
out of
work.
it. Hundreds of
Good luck
photos
with the
loaded
rest of
across
your
the
tasks
screen.
for today,
Snowy
and I'll talk
mountains.
to you guys in a
A
few.
luxury lodge. A stone fireplace taller than my apartment wall. My father holding champagne. My mother wearing a cream coat I had never seen before. Caleb in ski goggles beside a polished bar. Tessa in a white faux fur jacket, laughing with a cocktail in her hand. I clicked on one image and opened the metadata. The photo had been taken 3 days after Caleb demanded money for his SUV. Another had been taken 1 week after my mother reminded me about the property tax payment. I kept clicking. The timestamps lined up like witnesses. While I was eating crackers for dinner and wondering how long I could keep the heat off, my family had been drinking champagne in Vale. That was the moment the final layer of denial burned away. They were not struggling. They were not one missed payment away from disaster. They were not holding the family together with trembling hands. They were using me to cover their boring expenses so they could spend their own money on luxury. Or worse, they were spending my money on luxury too. I opened a new spreadsheet. The title was simple: Voss Family Financial Review. For 72 hours, my apartment became an investigation room. I downloaded 12 years of bank statements. I pulled text messages from old phones. I searched emails. I opened archived receipts. I checked property records, tax portals, insurance documents, and public repair permits. I built columns for date, amount, requester, stated purpose, actual evidence, and beneficiary. Then the pattern appeared. My mother had once asked for $1,600 to replace the furnace. That same week, she bought a designer handbag. Tessa had asked for $900 because her car supposedly broke down on the way to a job interview. That same afternoon, she posted from a fashion event in Chicago. Caleb had asked for $3,200 to secure an investment opportunity. The money matched the deposit on a luxury watch. But the biggest discovery was the house, the foundation of the entire lie. The reason I had sacrificed 12 years. I pulled the public property records for my parents' home in Maple Bluff. No major tax debt, no active lien, no emergency roof balance. The roof repair my father had used to frighten me had been mostly covered by insurance years earlier. There was no reason for a $1,700 monthly payment. There never had been. I went deeper. In the early years, I had sent physical checks through bank bill pay. I requested scanned copies from the bank. When they arrived, I opened each one and looked at the back. The endorsement stamps told the story. Some checks went into my parents' accounts, but many were routed onward into an investment account under the name Caleb Voss. I sat completely still. The money I thought was protecting my parents' home had been building a safety net for my brother. My father had looked me in the eye, called me responsible, and used my fear to transfer my labor into Caleb's future. I highlighted the final column and clicked the total, $421,300. I stared at that number until it stopped looking like money and started looking like years. The home I never bought, the vacations I never took, the reliable car I never drove, the winter coat I left in the shop window, the nights I spent cold so they could be admired. I did not scream. I did not call them. I saved the spreadsheet, converted it into a 4-page presentation, exported it as a PDF, backed it up twice, and waited. Families like mine always come back when they need something. On day 80, my mother called as if no time had passed. Her voice was bright and polished. "Easter dinner is at the house this year," she said. 21 people. Be there early for photos. And on your way, pick up 2 bottles of Pinot Noir, the lemon tart from that bakery downtown, and white tulips for the centerpiece. I looked around my apartment. The sink held 1 bowl and 1 spoon. My pantry held soup, crackers, and half a jar of peanut butter. "I can't afford that," I said. The warmth left her voice. "Elena, don't come empty-handed. It's rude. We are opening our home to you." I almost laughed. Opening their home to me. The home I had been paying to protect from a debt that did not exist. "I'll be there," I said. "But I'm not bringing wine." She sighed like I had disappointed her again. "Then at least bring something of value." I looked at the 4-page file on my screen. "I will," I said. Easter Sunday arrived gray and cold. I drove my old Corolla through the quiet streets of Maple Bluff, past houses with trimmed hedges and cars that cost more than my annual rent. My parents' driveway was full. Mercedes, Lexus, BMW, Caleb's SUV parked proudly near the front like a trophy. I parked at the curb. I had chosen my appearance carefully. Old sweater, faded jeans, no makeup, tired eyes visible. I wanted them to underestimate me. I wanted them to see what they had made and mistake it for weakness. On the passenger seat sat my laptop bag and a box of discount crackers I had bought for $1.25. That box was not a joke. It was dinner on the nights they ignored me. I walked to the door, entered without ringing, and immediately felt the heat of the house wrap around me. The room smelled like roasted lamb, butter, herbs, expensive candles, and red wine. Conversation faded as people turned. Aunt Lydia looked me up and down. Tessa's mouth twitched with embarrassment. Caleb looked away, already bored. My mother's eyes dropped to the crackers in my hand, and panic flashed across her face. Not concern, panic that I would ruin the look of her table. My father crossed the foyer in 3 strides and grabbed my elbow. "Study. Now," he hissed. He pulled me down the hall and shut the door behind us. His office smelled like leather, cigars, and old power. Framed awards lined the walls. Photos of him shaking hands with local business leaders stared down at me like witnesses for the wrong side. "What is wrong with you?" he snapped. "You show up looking like this? Carrying that? Your mother is humiliated. Caleb told me you refused to help him with his vehicle. Tessa says you cut off tools she needs for work. You lose one job and suddenly the entire family has to suffer your little emotional collapse?" I stood still. "I told you I have no income." He slammed his palm onto the desk. "Do not lie to me. You have always hoarded money. You are punishing us because you are bitter. You are going to walk back out there, apologize to your mother, apologize to Caleb, and promise the family you will do better. If you cannot do that, leave. It was almost beautiful. How perfectly he stepped into the trap. I looked at him and nodded. You're right, Dad, I said. I do have something to say to everyone. His shoulders relaxed. A small, satisfied smile appeared on his face. He thought the old Elena had returned, the one who apologized to keep peace, the one who paid to be loved. He opened the office door and gestured for me to walk ahead. We returned to the dining room. The table was flawless. White linen, crystal, tulips, polished silver, lamb resting under carved herbs, wine breathing in tall glasses. 21 relatives waited. My father tapped his glass with a fork. Everyone, he announced. Elena has something she would like to say before dinner. I stepped forward. My mother watched me with a warning in her eyes. Caleb leaned back with a smirk. Tessa folded her arms. I placed the $1.25 box of crackers in the exact center of the table, beside the lamb and the flowers. The room went very still. Then I opened my laptop. My father's smile faltered. Elena, he whispered, what are you doing? I connected to the television. The fireplace screen went black. Then my title slide appeared in bright, clean letters. Voss Family Financial Review. 1-2. Year Audit. I heard someone inhale sharply. I began in the same voice I used in boardrooms. Calm. Measured. Unemotional. For the last 88 days, I have been unemployed. In that time, no one in this family asked if I had enough food, if I could pay rent, or if I was okay. But several people did contact me about payments. I clicked to the first slide. Tessa's Canva message appeared beside my cancellation notice. Tessa contacted me because I canceled software she expected me to keep paying for. Tessa's face flushed. I clicked again. Caleb's demand for SUV money appeared beside the veil metadata. Caleb contacted me because his vehicle payment bounced, 3 days before these photos were taken at a luxury resort in Colorado. Caleb sat upright. That's taken out of context. I ignored him. I clicked again. My mother's message about property taxes appeared beside the public tax record. My mother contacted me about a house debt that does not exist. The murmuring began. My father moved toward the laptop. Turn it off. I slid it out of his reach. No. One word. Not loud. Not emotional. Just final. I clicked to the summary page. Over 12 years, I transferred $421,300 to members of this family, understated emergencies, recurring obligations, and household support requests. The number filled the screen. $421,300. Silence dropped over the room like a curtain. Uncle Raymond leaned forward, putting on his glasses. Raymond had spent 30 years in banking compliance. He knew ledgers. He knew fraud. His eyes moved across the rows. Victor, he said slowly, why is Elena paying $1,700 a month for property tax and roof debt when the public record shows no active balance? My father's face changed. Not guilt. Fear. That spreadsheet is nonsense, he snapped. She's unstable. She lost her job and now she's attacking us. I clicked to the next slide. Public records. Insurance settlement. Repair documentation. No active debt. No recurring payment. No foreclosure risk. The roof was covered by insurance, I said. The tax balance was cleared years ago. There was no monthly obligation. Aunt Lydia covered her mouth. My mother whispered, Stop this. You are ruining Easter. I looked at her. No, Mom. I'm presenting the audit. I clicked again. Scanned checks appeared on the screen, front and back, routing trails, endorsement stamps, beneficiary account. Caleb Voss. The money I was told protected this house was routed into an investment account under Caleb's name. Tessa turned to Caleb. You had an investment account? Caleb's face hardened. You don't understand finance. I almost smiled. I understand enough to know that a roof bill does not become your portfolio. The first gasp came from the far end of the table. Then another. The family was recalculating years of stories in real time. I moved through the slides. My mother's furnace emergency beside her handbag purchase. Tessa's roadside breakdown beside her fashion event. Caleb's business opportunity beside his luxury watch deposit. Then the veil photos. Champagne, ski jackets, fireplace, smiling faces, metadata dates. I let the images sit on the screen long enough for everyone to understand. These were taken while I was eating crackers for dinner, I said. While I was selling personal items to keep the electricity on. While every person in this house knew I had lost my income and still chose to ask me for more. My father's face twisted. You ungrateful little. Sit down, Victor. Uncle Raymond's voice cut through the room. He was no longer looking at me. He was looking at row 71. His finger trembled slightly as he pointed at the screen. Scroll down. I did. Row 71 moved into view. $12,500. Emergency legal fee. Duplicate request. Raymond stood slowly. Last year, you called me, he said to my father. You told me Caleb was facing legal action over a real estate contract. You cried on the phone. You said the family would be destroyed if you could not settle it immediately. I transferred you $12,500. He looked back at the screen. Elena transferred the same amount that same month for the same reason. The room turned cold. Raymond's voice lowered. Was there ever a lawsuit? My father opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I clicked one more time. County property listing. Down payment record. Caleb's name. There was no lawsuit, I said. The money was used toward a condo investment under Caleb. Aunt Lydia stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. Marianne, you asked me for $4,000 that spring for medical bills. Another cousin spoke up. Someone else remembered a loan. Another remembered a fundraiser that never made sense. The table erupted. Questions flew from every direction. My mother started crying loudly, but the tears did not soften anyone. Caleb shouted that I had forged everything. Tessa stared at the TV as if the life she had been living had suddenly become evidence. My father tried to regain control, but control had left him the moment the first number appeared. Raymond's voice rose over the chaos. Victor, if this money crossed state lines under false pretenses, you are not looking at a family disagreement. You are looking at fraud. That word landed harder than any scream. Fraud. My father stepped back as if the floor had shifted beneath him. I closed my laptop. The television went dark, then returned to the fireplace screensaver, soft flames flickering above a room that had just burned for real. My role was finished. I had presented the facts. The stakeholders could handle the loss. I slid the laptop into my bag and turned to leave. My mother grabbed my wrist near the foyer. Her nails dug into my skin. Fix this, she whispered. Her face was pale, her makeup streaked, her voice frantic. Tell them you were confused. Tell them you made it up because you were stressed. If you don't fix this, we will lose everything. I looked into her eyes, searching for sorrow, for remorse, for one trace of the mother I had spent my life trying to earn. There was nothing there but fear of consequences. Not fear for me, fear for herself. I pulled my wrist free. I've paid enough, I said quietly. Account closed. Then I walked out. I did not run. I did not slam the door. I walked past the family photos in the hallway, past the polished furniture, past the perfect house I had been told I was saving. Outside, the cold air hit my face and felt cleaner than anything inside that home. Behind me, muffled shouting rose through the walls. Accusations, denials, chairs scraping. A family empire collapsing under the weight of its own receipts. I got into my old Corolla, started the engine, and drove away from Maple Bluff without looking back. Easter dinner was ruined. The lamb went cold. The wine remained untouched. And for the first time in 12 years, I felt hungry, broke, terrified, and completely free. The fallout did not need my help. Truth travels faster when people are embarrassed. By the next morning, the PDF had moved through family inboxes, group chats, and private messages. Raymond hired an attorney. Aunt Lydia demanded repayment. Other relatives began checking their own records and realizing that my father and mother had borrowed from them too, always with a crisis, always with urgency, always with just enough emotion to bypass suspicion. My parents' social world collapsed first. That mattered to them more than anything. My mother was removed from a charity planning committee she had dominated for years. Friends stopped returning calls. Neighbors who once admired my father suddenly crossed the street to avoid him. Business contacts became unavailable. Caleb's investment account was frozen in the legal mess. His SUV was eventually repossessed, which was almost poetic considering how many times he had used that vehicle to make himself look successful. Tessa lost her software, her studio rentals, her content wardrobe, and the illusion that she could build a brand entirely on someone else's sacrifice. She took a receptionist job at a skincare clinic, and for the first time in her life, she learned what it meant to stand on her feet for 8 hours because rent was not a concept, it was a deadline. My parents, without my $2,950 every month, without relatives willing to lend them money, without reputation to hide behind, started drowning in the kind of reality they had outsourced to me for years. And then came the final irony: the house. The house they had used as a weapon against me, the house they claimed I was saving from disaster, finally became a real problem. Not because of roof debt, not because of taxes, because lies are expensive when they mature. Legal demands, drained accounts, lost business, and the end of my payments did what no fake crisis ever had. They were actually at risk of losing it. I heard all this through relatives who still had my email. I did not answer calls from unknown numbers. I did not listen to voicemails. Silence had been their punishment for me when I became unemployed. Now silence was my boundary. But closure did not pay rent. That is the part people forget in revenge stories. Exposing the truth feels powerful, but it does not refill your bank account. I was still unemployed. My severance was almost gone. My apartment was still cold. I had less than $400 left when an email arrived from a financial firm in Minneapolis. They needed a director of internal risk control, someone who could trace hidden losses, identify manipulation patterns, and stay calm under pressure. During the final interview, the managing director leaned back and said, "Tell us about a time you uncovered a complex financial deception in a high-pressure environment." I did not tell them my family story. Not directly. I opened my portfolio and handed them a sanitized version of the Voss audit. Names removed, addresses removed, personal details removed. What remained was the structure: false claims, recurring payments, public record contradictions, redirected funds, timeline matching, supporting metadata. I walked them through the process. The room became very quiet. One executive turned a page and whispered, "This is exceptional. They offered me the job before I left the building. Higher salary than I had ever made. Signing bonus. Benefits. A path upward." I drove back to Madison that evening, feeling as if the road had opened for the first time in years. Within a month, I moved to Minneapolis. Within 3 months, I rebuilt my emergency fund. Within 6 months, I paid off the debt I had accumulated, trying to survive unemployment. Within a year, I bought a small townhouse with big windows, a bright kitchen, and a quiet corner where I could drink coffee without waiting for the next crisis call. The most shocking part was not the new job. It was what happened when I kept my own money. For 12 years, nearly $3,000 had vanished every month. Once it stayed with me, my life changed at a speed that almost made me angry. I was not bad with money. I had never been irresponsible. I had been financing 4 adults who called it family. 9 months after Easter, a letter arrived at my new address. My father's handwriting was on the envelope. A year earlier, seeing it would have made my stomach twist. This time, I felt only curiosity. I opened it carefully. The note was short. "We are losing the house. Your mother is not well. Family is family. We forgive you for Easter. Please call us." I read the line again. "We forgive you." After everything, they still believed I was the one who needed forgiveness. They had taken $421,300. They had abandoned me when I lost my job. They had built Caleb's future with my labor. They had watched me shrink my life so theirs could look abundant. And still, in their minds, my crime was exposing the theft. I set the letter on my kitchen counter, opened a drawer, and took out a red marker. Across the front of the envelope, I wrote 3 words: "Return to sender." Then I walked outside, placed it back in the mailbox, and raised the flag. The transaction was declined. Permanently. It has been 1 year since that Easter dinner. My life now is quiet in the best way. My phone does not make me flinch. My paycheck belongs to me. My home is warm. My pantry is full. I own a winter coat that actually keeps out the cold. I sleep through the night. And I have learned this. Being the responsible one does not mean you were born to be used. Being strong does not mean you should carry people who refuse to stand. And being family does not give anyone the right to turn your love into a line of credit. If this story sounds familiar, if you are the one everyone calls in a crisis but no one calls just to ask how you are, look closely at the pattern. Look at who needs you and who loves you. They are not always the same people. The ones who truly love you will care about your empty hands. The ones who only love your resources will resent you the moment the money stops. Let them be angry. Let them call you selfish. Let them rewrite the story. You do not owe anyone a life paid for with your own destruction. Check your bank statements, yes, but also check your heart. Who shows up when you have nothing left to offer? Who disappears the second you set a boundary? Who makes you feel guilty for surviving? That answer may hurt, but it may also save you. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this story reminded you of someone who is bleeding themselves dry for people who never say thank you, share it with them. Subscribe for more stories about boundaries, betrayal, and the moment people finally take their lives back. And tell me in the comments, what is the most outrageous thing a family member ever expected you to pay for? Protect your peace, guard your future, and never forget this. Real love does not require a monthly transfer.